Tattvanam lakshanam pritak yad viditva vimuchita purusha prakriter gunai. Translation: the personality of Godhead, Kapila, continued, "My dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature." Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, only through devotional service. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. As stated in the Bhagavatam, the object of devotional service is Mam, Krishna. And as explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to understand Krishna means to understand Krishna in his personal form with his internal energy, his external energy, his expansions, and his incarnations. There are many diverse departments of knowledge in understanding Krishna. One second, please. Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world. It is generally understood by the parampara system or by disciplic succession to be the science of devotional service. Preliminary studies of devotional service have already been explained. Now, the analytical study of devotional service will be explained by the Lord, who says that by such an analytical study, one becomes freed from the modes of material nature. The same assertion is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tato mam tatvato gyatva. By understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. This is also explained here. By understanding the science of devotion service and Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. The eternal self, after becoming freed from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. As long as one has even a slight desire to enjoy or lord it over material nature, there's no chance of his being freed from the influence of nature's material modes. Therefore, one has to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead analytically, as explained in the Sankhya system of philosophy by Lord Kapila Deva. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so we are reading from the text one of chapter 26 and canto 3. And it says the fundamental principles of material nature. Okay. So it says, now the personality Godhead Kapila continued, "My dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature." Well, there are different ways of understanding Krishna. Why? Because Krishna has so many different facets, different qualities, and different pastimes, and so forth. Some people like to quantify their knowledge. That means counting things. Basically, that's what is understood by the um, the concept of um, I'm sorry, one second. Let me just see this. Yeah, the quantification of knowledge. In other words, you're counting things. That is Sankhya yoga. It's very similar. Sankhya yoga is very similar to what the scientists do today. They count things, they quantify things, they organize things. So here at Kapila Dev is saying to his mother, my dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth. So now he's going to quantify different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. So, if you only understand one or two things, that is incomplete knowledge. But if you understand all aspects of something, that is real knowledge. So, it's the same thing whether you're studying geometry or arithmetic or Krishna consciousness. It's not enough to just understand superficial things or just a few things. You have to study everything to really uh, be an expert in the knowledge. So that's why uh, Kapila Dev is very merciful to his mother. He says, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. So, half knowledge is almost no knowledge. You have to have complete knowledge to be able to understand something. So that's what basically is fundamental principles of material nature. You want to understand how the material nature is functioning, there's a lot of things that you have to learn. You cannot just skim the surface of that subject because the material nature is massive, and therefore there's many aspects of material nature that have to be understood. And when it says, my dear mother, now I shall describe unto you the different categories of the absolute truth, knowing which any person can be released from the influence of the modes of material nature. Okay, so the absolute truth means everything material and everything spiritual. You cannot just study one thing, like the scientists, they just study material nature. They have no knowledge, or they don't want to have any knowledge of spiritual nature. They're just concerned with the material nature. So that's not really uh, scientific. It's incomplete knowledge. Okay, so in the purport it says, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, only through devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijananti. As stated in the Bhagavatam, I'm sorry, one second. As stated in the Bhagavatam, the object of devotional service is mam, meaning Krishna. And as explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to understand Krishna means to understand Krishna in his personal form with his internal energy, his external energy, his expansions, and his incarnation. Okay, so there you have 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll take a whole lifetime to understand those 4 things. Krishna's internal energy, his external energy, his expansions, and his incarnations. There are many diverse departments of knowledge. There it is. It's a lot to learn. In understanding Krishna, Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world. It is generally understood by the Parampara system or by disciplic succession to be the science of devotional service. And why does it say Sankhya philosophy is especially meant for persons who are conditioned by this material world? Well, because Sankhya philosophy is basically it's similar to what scientists do. They quantify things. They have charts. They have different types of um, what you would call approaches to understanding what they consider as the truth, and they quantify things. They count things. So obviously, if you're studying Krishna and you want to count things, you'll never come to the end. And Krishna is infinite. So you'll never become fully cognizant of all of Krishna's qualities, pastimes, and so forth. But you can get some understanding. To think that we can come to the end of all knowledge of Krishna is not feasible, because Krishna, there's what you call a competition uh, between understanding and expanding knowledge. When you have expanding knowledge, as soon as you understand something, that knowledge has expanded. So you'll never come to the end of knowledge of Krishna, uh, because but Krishna is always expanding in all his aspects. But you can understand something, uh, and that is realistic. As someone who's a great, let's say, scientist like Isaac Newton, he said, "We've only studied uh, a few sands in the ocean of knowledge." So he was honest. He was saying, "Look, we don't know everything. We claim to be scientists, but the real scientist is God, and God's domain is infinite. So whatever we are studying, it's just a few grains in the ocean of knowledge." That's realistic. Other scientists, or so-called scientists, they think that they can quantify everything and reach the stage of knowing everything, but that's not possible. As soon as they try to understand everything, everything increased. And now they have to again quantify. And again, as soon as they think they come to the end of all their quantification, again, the knowledge has increased. So one will never come to the end of knowledge of Krishna. Uh, so it says, Tato mam tatvato yatva. By understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. This is also explained here. By understanding the science of devotional service in Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. The eternal self, after becoming freed from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. As long as one has even a slight desire to enjoy or lord it over material nature, there is no chance of his being freed from the influence of nature's material modes. Therefore, one has to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead analytically, as explained in the Sakya system of philosophy by Lord Kapila. Well, something hasn't been said here, and that is one has to be extremely humble and also guided by bona fide spiritual masters, but that humility, that freedom from having a false concept of oneself is very important. Um, that's why one has to be, uh, well, the idea is that the analytical study of devotional service will be explained by the Lord, who says that by such an analytical study, one becomes freed from the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So if we can very systematically study the knowledge of how to be freed from the modes of material nature, that means that by understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. All right, so it's not an easy thing. However, for one who is very humble and who engages in regulated and steady devotional service under the tutelage or under the direction of the Supreme Person of genuine devotees, it is possible. What is possible? To become free of the cycle of birth and death. But one has to be very humble and in the company, constant company of genuine devotees, and be able to humble themselves through devotional service. Then it is possible. Otherwise, it's impossible. And here it says, the eternal soul, or the eternal self, after becoming freed from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. Well, what is the spell of material nature? There's a million things in the material world that are intriguing, that people get attracted to. When one is no longer attracted by anything, like for example, some people will they're very, very excited about seeing the eclipse of the sun or the moon. Right? They think this is like some really special thing. So they'll stay up all night or whatever to see that. But it's just something temporary. It's not eternal. So you can see the eclipse of the sun 100 times. It doesn't mean you're going to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So there are some things that people think that, well, if I see this or if I climb Mount Everest, then I will be someone special. Not really. Okay, you climb Mount Everest. It's just a mountain, right? But and you get a great panoramic view of nature, but that doesn't mean you're liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So there are many efforts that people take to have, let's say, a exhilarating experience, but it all becomes a dream when it's over, and it does not really bring you closer to Krishna. Some people say, "Oh, this is the most wonderful experience I ever had. I climbed Mount Everest, and I saw things that are so wonderful, and I felt that I came very close to God." But still, they come back and they go to the grocery store and they eat nonsense foods and so forth. So, how did they change? They didn't really change. Yeah.
There's the Star Wars, one of the main characters, not Star Wars, Star Trek, Liam Shatner or somebody. He went in this ride of Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' company Blue Origin. They have the space ride, the first space ride. So he gave him a free ticket or something like that. And so he went
And
there.
it cost like what, $20,000 or
Yeah, more than that, I think 200,000 or
two
something.
hundred thousand? Okay.
Yeah. So he went there and he said, I saw, it felt like I'm close to God, I'm close to same thing, exactly as you narrated.
Yeah, and
And
then he comes back and has his clothes in his closet and has a small bathroom.
okay, okay.
So all that auxiliary, all that superior experience is actually mundane, right? If you go up very high into the sky, but you come back down again, you're still where you started. You didn't achieve anything. Yeah, you saw something, but it was a temporary thing. So there's Sat and Asat. Sat means the truth, and it's eternal. And Asat means something that's temporary and therefore cannot be considered the absolute truth. So in Krishna consciousness, we learn both Sat and Asat, but we don't have to uh, always be thinking about what is Asat, what is not eternal. We have knowledge of what is not eternal, but we concern ourselves and get engaged in what is eternal. We don't want to be engaged the rest of our life in what is not eternal. We want to be engaged in what is eternal. But in order to not make any mistakes and take the wrong path, we have to have knowledge of what is not eternal also. So it says here, Tatamam Tatvato Gyatva, by understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. This is also explained here. By understanding the science of devotion service in Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. The eligible self, after becoming freed from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. Now, see, that's a very significant statement. There are many scientists that, there are some scientists that claim that we're living in an illusory world. Look that up. There are scientists that claim that we're living in an illusory world. Now, how do they, let's say, feel that we're in an illusory world? Well, like for example, you can go up in one of Elon Musk's rockets and circle the world, 50 times. And then you come back and you're still on the Earth planet in an apartment, in a small uh, space. Whereas when you were in that rocket, you were in a small space, but you were able to see, a panoramic view of the Earth. So it's something that you experience, but now you're still back on the Earth in your small apartment, in your small bathroom, and so forth. So what have you gained? That's the point. What have you actually gained? People say, well, I had this experience, it was wonderful, but you're still back in your small apartment with your house, or the bathroom. So your space that you're living in is still very limited, right? For some short period, you might have gone up to, let's say, 100 miles into the sky. Now you have a panoramic view of the Earth planet, right? But you come back and you're still where you started. You haven't really achieved anything. You're back to where you started from. And some people argue, uh, but however, it's a fact. You're back to where you started from. So what's the big deal? You know, you didn't go back to Godhead. You just went up into the sky 100 miles. And by the way, it's not more than 100 or 200 miles. I don't even know if it's that much. All this space, science. All they've done is just go up a short distance. It's not really a great distance into the space. And no man has ever gone to the moon. They claim it, but no one has actually gone to the moon. You know, and the moon is thousands and thousands of miles away. The moon is supposed to be farther away than the sun. The sun's supposed to be 93 million miles away. You know, so how can they say that they've gone to the moon when, according to Shastra, it's much farther away than the sun? Okay, so uh, therefore, there is what we call uh, false knowledge, real knowledge and false knowledge. Real knowledge is how to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. It's not how to go to the moon and come back. That's not real knowledge. Or how to build a skyscraper. That's not real knowledge. Yeah, it takes some technical, knowledge to do that, but you still are on where you started from. You're in an office now. Instead of the office being on the ground level, the office is 40 stories high, but you're still you know almost where you started from. So therefore, uh, we need to have a realistic concept of what is achievement, what is actually science. What is the purpose of science? Right from the beginning of the search for the elixir of immortality, that's how science started. People wanted to find that elixir of immortality. They never found it, but they did uh, find a lot of things about the material nature. So they can build airplanes and rockets, they can have submarines and all kinds of gadgets and that make life maybe so-called easier. But they haven't really, that's not real science. Real science is how to become free from the cycle of birth and achieve the real goal of science. So, in one sense, you could say, well, maybe Jesus Christ did. Maybe he is the quintessential scientist because he resurrected from the dead. At least that's what the Christians say. So that is science. When you learn how to free yourself from the cycle of death. But all the other achievements that scientists have made are not really great things. Right? They look great, but then they're not really that special. Like, for example, you get a cell phone. Now, has that really helped you? So some people say, yeah, it's very important. I would not be able to do so many things without the cell phone. But for hundreds and millions of years, people lived without a cell phone. And they still built wonderful buildings, the pyramids and things like that, right? The There's not uh, to be able to control your mind and your senses and live a spiritual life. That's real achievement because you're prepared to go back to Godhead. But simply, I built 45 sky buildings or big buildings. That will not take you back to Godhead. Okay? Just like Trump, he's built all these big buildings, the Trump Towers. Does that mean that he's going back to Godhead? No, no way. So, and anyway, look, the whole planet Earth is an insignificant planet in the universe. So, we're actually, whatever we do is not even a drop in the gigantic bucket of the universe. So, we have to realize who we are. We're very insignificant. However, we can develop our love and devotion for Krishna. Now let's talk about that for a minute. Instead of discovery outside, we should explore inside. God is in our heart. So you want to see God, you have to go into your heart to see it, not by surgery, but by love and devotion. Then you've achieved something. But you can go to every planet and explore every planet. You'll not find God. Right? But if you explore in your heart and it's through devotional service, you will find God. God is in your heart. He's in the heart of every living entity. So instead of looking outside, we should learn to look inside. Exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. And everybody else is trying to look outside. So what are they going to find? It's just like a man. He was looking for a something that he lost, like a watch, and it was nighttime, and he was looking for it under a night uh, light, street light. So someone came and said, "Sir, have you lost something?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "What is it?" "I lost my watch." "Oh, okay. Where did you lose it?" He said, "I lost it out there in the field." He said, "But why are you looking for it here under the light?" He said, "Well, there's light here. There's no light out there." So he's never going to find his watch, right? So the same way, are you going to find the truth on Mars? No. Uh, you have to look inside of yourself. Just because you're trying to explore, let's say, the universe, that doesn't mean you're going to find God. God is in your heart. You have to look inside, not outside. But everybody's looking outside. Say. So that means that just like Darwin, he went around and South America, and he was analyzing birds and bugs and things like that, right? And he came up with some theory. He'll admit it. I mean, he admits it in his writing. He said, "Well, he didn't study every animal or every insect. He just studied a few things, and then he speculated. He actually uses the word speculated, right? Uh, so, what good is his knowledge? No one has become liberated from a cycle of birth and death by studying Darwinism. Uh, so, uh, is that actually? I want you to look up Darwin, and that he actually says that speculation is part of scientific research, or he said something like that. So, what's the use of what Darwinism? And just because he studied a few bugs and birds and he came up with his theory, it doesn't mean that he's free from birth and death. It doesn't mean that he actually understands how nature is working. He just understood a few little things and he made a theory through speculation. What should say? He actually said that speculation is okay when you're doing scientific research.
Says ChatGPT. So it says Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was indeed a groundbreaking idea. And while Darwin based his theory on extensive evidence and observations, he did acknowledge the speculative aspects of his ideas in his writing.
Yeah. Yes. He honestly says so. You know, you learn you experiment by catching a couple bugs or birds or something, and then you speculate the rest. And he came up with a theory using speculation, right? And what was his speculation? Okay, let's talk about that. He speculated that there is the development of species. But actually, the truth is, all the species are created at once by Krishna. There's no such thing as the slow process of, without any guidance of God, and it's going from one species to another. By the way, no one has ever seen one species turning into another species. You know, they don't have that proof. That's just a gigantic speculation. And actually, if the truth is that all the species were created at once by Krishna, that's completely different than Darwinism. When he said everything is developing from the one cell amoeba up to the human being over a long period of time. Okay. And people believe that. But that's his speculation. Actually, everything was created at one time by Krishna.
And he observed the caterpillar too much.
The what?
The caterpillar.
Oh, the caterpillar. How much he probably must have eaten one by accident. Got so close to the caterpillar. And the next life would be a caterpillar because he's meditating on them so much. Yeah.
So Maharaj, he has used the word speculation openly, but still people are had accepted why
Science. They say it's science.
Right. And it's like very strange that worldwide people had accepted, even though he's calling out it's a speculation, they are accepting.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
See, now the problem is this, that we have the explanation. God created everything, right? But it used to be that Christianity, it had its dogma, and over time, people realized that some of the things that were so-called dogma of Christianity were nonsense, right? They're not true what they were teaching, and that's when science got let's say, took over from Christianity, because there were a lot of things that the Christians were saying was the truth. They turned out that it wasn't the truth through scientific research. Then the Christians, got frozen, and now they had to adjust their theories. Like, for example, at one time they theorized that the sun is circling the earth. Why don't you look that up? Then they found out by Copernicus and other, scientists, that the earth is circling the sun. And that was a big wake-up call for the Christians.
Maharaj, the science and the scientists
in my understanding, they are trying to understand things around us. Okay. But are they in search of God?
Well, it started out, uh, you go back to Newton, he had some faith in God, right? And he talks about it. Now, that doesn't mean he was a pure devotee, but he would talk about God. But his conception of God was a specific type of conception. But still, he's talking about God. But when you get to modern scientists, most of them don't talk about God. Only when there's a hurricane or a earthquake, then they start talking about that. Just like when they sent up the first astronaut into the sky, and then there was a problem, right? And then they said, "Please pray for the astronauts."
Yeah. Pray to whom?
Huh?
Pray to whom?
Yeah, pray to whom? Pray to God, of course. So when everybody's scared, right? They start talking about God.
Thank God it comes to existence.
Yeah,
By default.
yeah.
Yeah, they did say, it says historically many early Christian authorities, along with scholars from other traditions, believed that the sun revolved around the earth, a view known as geocentrism.
Yeah.
This belief was consistent with ancient Greek cosmology, particularly the teachings of philosophers like Aristotle,
Aristotle.
and Ptolemy,
Plotny.
Ptolemy,
Plotny.
who described an Earth-centered universe. In full lot of detail, but I will go to some conclusion part. So it says the Catholic Church initially resisted these ideas. Galileo in particular faced opposition and was famously tried.
Yeah, they were going to kill him because he said, the sun is not orbiting the Earth. The Earth is orbiting the sun. They were going to kill him. Right? And he had to say, he was forced to say, no, everything I said is wrong.
And then at the time, Maharaj, like as per Shastra was saying different versus the Christianity was saying opposite at that time.
Are you asking a question?
Yes, yes.
Well, what was Shastra saying? I mean, you have to, okay, what was Shastra saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if they had access to what Shastra was saying. Does it say in the Bible? I mean, when you say Shastra, which Shastra are you talking about? If it's the Shastra of the Vedas, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But they didn't have access to the Vedas.
Vedas.
Right.
So the Pandits.
They were just speculating, and using so-called science to try and understand what's going on. You see, the whole idea of scientific research is what? It's to find the elixir of immortality. So on the path of trying to find the science of the elixir of immortality, they found a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Right. So then they gave up basically trying to figure out the elixir of immortality, and they came up with all these other things, called science.
They call the Amasurat.
Yeah.
That's not they get something.
Yeah. So okay, we didn't find the elixir of immortality, but we build bridges.
Yeah.
And we build, submarines, and we do this and we do that. So they never really found what they were looking for originally. I mean, just because you build a skyscraper doesn't mean you understand how to get free from the cycle of birth and death. Right? The original whole purpose of scientific research was to find the elixir of immortality. They never found it. They found a lot of other things, how to build airplanes, how to build submarines, how to build bombs, atomic bomb. But basically, what they have found is faster ways to kill people. That's what they've found. Where before, with caveman, you had the club, and you killed, 1, 2, 3 people,
Yeah.
Now they have atomic bomb. You can kill hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of people. That's what they have achieved. They haven't really found how to, free people from the cycle of death. They found ways of killing more people faster.
Logic is the thing. Science is feeding more people. I think before science, people used to starve. Starving is one reason they claim. The other one is health issues. Like there are no vaccines, people are dying more. They give credit to science and these two reasons. Feeding
Well,
more people.
penicillin. Now they have penicillin. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
But because of the microscope, it changed a lot of things. Before there was a microscope, they didn't know that there was microscopic life. Once they had the microscope, they started to see that there are microbes, and there's a whole other, let's say, other creatures that we don't even see. Now they developed the germ theories, right? Because before they didn't know about the germs, but once they had the microscope, then they found out there were germs, and there was a huge discovery because they never realized, there's these little bugs and things in the body and on this. They didn't understand that.
And people don't accept Guru Maharaj that COVID is claimed that it's a man-made thing, a man-released thing. So they forget about this. Through the science experiment, they make things very blunders. They think
Well, they were doing all this research in this one laboratory
yes,
in the United States. Was it in the United States or no?
China.
China, yeah. But it was funded by the United States, right? And then somehow or other, this COVID got out, right? And it was something that the United States was exploring. I'm sure, it's for some kind of military use. And all of a sudden, it got out.
So now they don't track how many people it ended up killing.
Yeah,
They want to track we created penicillin or something like
a
this.
lot of people, millions, actually. That's how science is dangerous, It's what you would call, it's like Frankenstein. Now, the story of Frankenstein is not real, right? But it's very instructive. The scientist learns how to take body parts from dead people and eventually come up with a freak person called Frankenstein, right? And he comes alive. And he has many of the same, feelings of human beings. He's searching out for love and things like that. But he's like horrible, They took different body parts and put it together and made this freak being called Frankenstein.
And learn about it.
Huh?
And learn about it.
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot to learn because it's all about science gone wild, science gone awry, Why don't you look at that? Let's look up what Frankenstein. It's just like Oppenheimer. He sort of was the father of the atomic bomb. But then once he, found out about, atomic energy and so forth and how to make a bomb, the generals in the army took that bomb and started killing people with it. Then Oppenheimer, he regretted what he did. Right? That's the same story. It's the same type of story with Frankenstein. You create some horrible creature, right? Through so-called medical experimentation, and all of a sudden you bring up to life a creature that is mean and nasty, goes around killing people, right? The story of Frankenstein is like the story of the atomic bomb. The person that created the atomic bomb, basically the scientists, when they saw that the military was taking what they created and using it to kill people, they regretted ever doing it.
It is searching for some novel.
Now, like
It's Frankenstein.
US,
novel.
people take the prestige.
Just look, story of Mark Frankenstein.
That's what I said, story of Frankenstein. So it's taking me to the Frankenstein novel.
And that's why, because it's just a story. It's not real. What?
US, people take prestige to build things for army. Like, for example, Microsoft is building the virtual augmented reality.
Yeah.
Basically, the goal is to how to sharply kill enemies,
How do what?
how to kill more.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why once Prabhupada said, what they have done is they've learned how to kill people faster.
Yeah, yeah. But in the name of they're saving the citizens of US.
Yeah. Yeah. In the meantime, they create things like these viruses and things like that, and then gets out.
It's out, no control.
No control over it.
Like giving the fire to children.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It gets out of the laboratory.
Yes. And they won't learn the Maharaj.
And it's usually for military use, right? It's called kind of science. They're trying to find biological weapons.
Yes.
Biological weapons can be worse than the bombs and things like that, because now,
Subtle way.
yeah, it's much more subtle than a bomb, but it's just as lethal. So by the way, they claim that biological weapons are not permitted anymore,
Yeah.
but still the research is going on secretly. And they signed these agreements that we will no longer do biological weaponry, but they still do it.
And they say in the name of vaccine, they change the content. So in the science, what happens is you can do anything, but if you reward it.
Yes.
So this is a sad situation because I take some projects through some this legal, environmental phases.
Yeah.
Where I have to phrase it.
Yes.
In many places, I have convinced people to take forward.
Yes. And that's a fact. That's a fact. If you give a new name to something,
Exactly.
then people will accept it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, scientists are tricky. This is what happens. Combination of politics plus science.
It's not really science. It's cheating.
Yes.
They give something a neutral type of name,
Yes.
so you're not afraid of it. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They're evading
What's
all
an
this.
example of that? What's an example of that?
Like for example, this biological weapons, right? They will say we are exploring the vaccines. So
Okay.
instead of saying weapons.
Yeah. Yes.
But when the time comes, they use it as a weapon.
Yes.
It's like the military, like
Yes.
the
Biological warfare.
So when it comes to nuclear weapon, they use it as energy. We
Yes.
don't have enough energy.
Yes.
So that's why they continue the project.
And they're still looking for their big project is fusion energy.
Yes. Then one day it
By
will
the
be
way, they're never going to achieve that. They say that the energy that's coming from the sun is due to fusion technology, but it's wrong.
yeah.
It's wrong. It's coming from Krishna. So they're spending billions of dollars on fusion energy experimentation. You have these huge reactors and things like that. And why? Because they think that fusion energy is the future of mankind. Because it's what do you call it? Self-generating. Now, of course, they're never going to achieve that, but they think it's possible. Then now you'll have free energy.
Mhm.
Just like the sun. The sun, I mean, all that sunlight's coming into the whole universe, sustaining the whole universe, right? How much of that sun energy do we capture? Very little.
Fusion energy is combined two atoms together that the
Yeah.
energy released.
Right.
So that means it's going to absorb everything.
Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but they're really working on it.
Yes, I read some article, Maharaj. Right now, what situation is they're using more energy when it's created.
Yeah. Yes, that's a fact.
So combining two atoms requires more.
Well, no, what they want is that they can produce free energy. In other words, it creates more energy than you put into it. But right
Yes.
now, they're still
Taking more.
putting in more energy than they're getting back.
Getting out. Yes.
So they want to get something that is self-sustaining. The technology by which it's self-sustaining. So they don't have to put anything into it.
Yeah, one thing they don't understand, Maharaj, is like for the nuclear means it's breaking.
Yeah.
Now I don't know whether the scientists are capturing
Fusion is bringing together.
What happened this it could be also uncontrollable until they figure it out.
Well, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. You know, there was one devotee. He was tinkering around, trying to find trying to make an engine that produces more energy than it uses.
Mhm.
Right. And he had these devotees. He's a guru. He had these devotees working on finding these type of building these machines that produce more energy than the input, right?
Mhm.
And it exploded and almost killed one of the devotees. And they stopped.
Is it can Guru and devotees, Guru Maharaj?
Mhm.
Ah,
Harivilas Maharaj.
ah,
Yeah, a little bit crazy.
okay.
He would, but because if you could find a a machine that creates more energy than you put into it, right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to take over the world, right? So he was doing those type of experiments using his disciples, and there was an explosion. One of his disciples almost died, and they stopped doing it. Yeah, everyone wants this fusion energy because it's more powerful than the explosion energy. You know? But they haven't succeeded. But yet they're trying. They have these big, what do you call it, reactor.
Yeah, somewhere in Finland.
Yeah, and they're doing all kinds of research to conquer or control fusion energy. Let's see what's going to happen. Why do they do that? Because they want to have free energy.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Eventually they will use it as a weapon.
Huh?
Eventually they will use it as a weapon.
Yeah, not only as a weapon, as a moneymaker, right? You have free energy, you make a lot of money. I mean, the energy they have now, it's all based on explosions, right? You know, so you have a car, right? How's a car? Let's not talk about electric cars yet, but it was based on explosions. You know, you have these cylinders, right? And then some gas goes into the cylinder, and there's an explosion, and it makes the wheels turn, right? So now, okay, they have electric. By the way, they had electric cars 100 years ago. It's not something new. They had electric cars 100 years ago. They just took over. You know, the gasoline car took over. You know. Now they're going back to the electric car because it's better. So-called, it's better for the nature, but not really, uh, because the you have these these batteries to run electric cars. Eventually, everything gets used and it ends up in a junkyard. Well, the junkyard of like Elon Musk, batteries are extremely toxic because of the metals that they use in it. It's extremely toxic, and pretty soon, when they start junking all these electric cars, it's going to cause a lot of contamination in the world. You know, I mean, it's a new thing, right? But pretty soon, all those cars are going to get used. They're going to end up in a junkyard, and it's going to be a big problem. It's just like atomic energy. They end up with all this atomic, what you would call refuge, and then they have to put it in these, metal uh, containers and hide them somewhere, right? And then sometimes those containers rot or get rusted, and then there's leakage, and it causes, very much, you contaminates the water, right? And we have to be careful because in this state, Washington State, they have a huge amount of atomic energy that's being stored here. Uh, and sometimes the storage containers break or rot, and then it can contaminate the groundwater. And you can look that up. I mean, they nowadays they try and send all the waste, atomic waste things overseas to poor countries. The poor countries get a lot of money for accepting the junk uranium and things like that, which is going to poison their whole, nature wherever they're living. And they get these poor people, in the islands in the Pacific to store their junk energy things. Uh, yeah, it's all exploitation. Yeah.
Instead of this, like just they're reducing the air pollution but increasing the other pollution.
Yeah.
The battery cars.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to keep America clean and contaminate the poor countries, and the poor countries accept all the junk because they make money. But eventually, they're starting to refuse to take the junk from the United States because it's contaminating, dangerous for their own people. Okay. Where are we now? I think we're over time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. All good, super. So the takeaway from Canto 3, Chapter 26, verse number 1, fundamental principles of material nature. And it says, As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, only through devotional service, bhaktyama abhijananti. As stated in the Bhagavatam, the object of devotional service is Mam, meaning Krishna. As explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, to understand Krishna means to understand Krishna in his personal form with his internal energy, his external energy, his expansions, and his incarnation. So there you go. This is what we have. This is called real knowledge. You understand Krishna through devotional service, and the object of devotional service is Krishna. And to understand Krishna means to understand Krishna in his personal form and his internal energy, his external energy, his expansions, and his incarnations. So everything is energy, and we are energy. A human being is energy of the Lord also. The Lord is the source of all energy. So all the things that the scientists are looking for now, they're trying to build fusion reactors and all kinds of things to conquer or control energy. And eventually they want to find, the real goal, what Harivilas Maharaj was trying to build a self-sustaining engine that creates more energy than it uses, right? And it exploded and almost killed a devotee. And then he stopped finally. But everybody wants that. They want to find, whether it's through fusion energy or and some other type of technique to create more energy in a machine than what you put into the machine. The machine produces more energy than what it consumes. That means that you have free energy, right? If it consumes only 1 gallon of gas, but it produces 10 gallons of nuclear energy or some other type of energy, now you have a more than it's a self-sustaining machine that is producing free energy. Imagine how much money you could make with something like that. You become billionaires, trillionaires, quadrillionaires very soon by producing engines like that. That produce more energy than the input of the energy. This is what they're looking for. But they won't find it. They want to achieve it. It's impossible. Look at see if that's true. They're looking to build an engine that produces more energy than it consumes. And they think they can do it through fusion energy. Right now, everything is based on explosion energy. Gasoline goes into a cylinder and there's a controlled explosion, and that makes the wheels turn. Now they want to find a different type of energy, fusion energy. And they think that, fusion energy is more powerful than explosive energy.
Nuclear energy, Guru Maharaj, they don't call explosive. Even though it's explosive, they call they're splitting the atoms and energy is getting released.
Yeah, but that's explosion. That's explosion. Yeah. They want fusion energy, but there's no explosion.
Energy means explosion, Guru Maharaj.
Probably, yeah, but they think that there's more energy by fusion than by explosion. Yeah, because explosion energy contaminates things. And it's expensive.
Yes, says Maharaj, scientists are actively researching ways to develop engines or systems that
What to develop what?
engines.
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 Yeah, you said engines.
How to pronounce Maharaj?
Sounded like Indian, you know. Yeah. Engine.
How to pronounce correctly?
Yeah. Engines.
Engines. To develop engines or systems that produce more useful energy than they consume
Yeah,
by
that's it right there.
harnessing energy sources more efficiently.
Yeah. Produce more energy than it consumes. Yeah, so Harivilas Maharaj was experimenting, right, with his devotees, right? And there was an explosion, almost killed the devotee, then he stopped. It's dangerous, you know. Now they have this fusion what do you call it? Fusion fusion reactors. Look it up. Fusion reactors. You're going to be shocked when you read about it. So everything now is based on explosions. Now they want to have fusion, which is different than explosion technology.
Yeah. Fortunately, that could be contaminating our soul.
Right.
Combine the atoms together.
Yeah. More contaminated?
It can be contaminated because explosion is basically changing the state of a material
Yeah.
from one state to another, which is not compatible with nature.
Right.
Similarly, when you
Why
combine,
is it not compatible? Because nature has it, volcanoes, things like that. It's all based on explosions. Right.
like most of the volcanoes, like they release certain gases.
Yeah.
You can't breathe that air. That happens.
Oh, right. There's no doubt that it's contaminating, but nature has a lot of explosion technology. I mean,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
But they're in a balance, and which is compatible with our sustainability.
Yeah.
But when you intervene in the process of nature,
Yeah.
and then you either break it or combine, that means it's not aligned with the nature.
Well, they want to combine now.
Now
Did
we
you
can
park
tell
in the
and
back?
find out.
On the outside? Did you park it in the driveway?
It's mine.
Huh?
No, mine
Yes,
doesn't.
oh, okay. Yes, okay, that's it. Sorry about
That's right.
Maharaj says fusion reactors are experimental devices designed to replicate the process of nuclear fusion. The
It's
same,
basically sun energy.
yes, the same reaction.
And by the way, that's wrong though. They're wrongly saying that the energy that the sun makes is by fusion. You know, not that something else, but okay, go ahead.
The same reaction that powers the sun and other stars in a controlled way here on Earth. If successful, fusion could provide an almost limitless source of clean, safe, and sustainable energy.
Well, that means free energy. Yeah, but see, they're making a mistake. The energy of the sun is not made by fusion. It's coming from Krishna. They think it's fusion. Fusion technique creates free energy. It's not true. So they're researching the wrong way. Put it like that. They never. I mean, they've been doing this for a long time. Have they achieved that? And these big reactors. They're experimenting with these big reactors, and I don't think they've come up with anything. Look up fusion reactors. Theoretically, a fusion reactor should produce more energy than what you put into it.
So that's what I read. It was about the fusion reactor only. So that's what they say. The same reaction that powers the sun and the other stars.
Yeah,
And the
that's a
control-
mistake. That is a mistake. That's not the origin of the sun's energy. But go ahead.
Then they are explaining more. Like here is the breakdown of how they work, the science behind them, and the challenges involved. So, like, what is nuclear fusion? It says, what is nuclear fusion? Nuclear fusion occurs when two light atomic nuclei, usually isotopes of hydrogen like deuterium and some difficult words, are heated and compressed until they combine to form a heavier nucleus. So they're just explaining in detail like what is this fusion means, nuclear fusion.
Right.
And then how do fusion reactor work? And then type of fusion reactors. I mean benefits of fusion reactors. And then challenges and current status and future of fusion. So
They have been doing this for 84 years.
84 years.
Yeah, right now, no device has reached net power.
In other words, they've been wasting their time and money.
Energy, yeah. And human life.
Everybody wants cheap or free energy.
So their current status, Maharaj, it says projects like ITER in France and various private sector initiatives are working to achieve sustainable fusion. This ITER, which is set to be the largest fusion reactor ever built, aims to demonstrate net energy gain by
more energy than what they put in.
the net energy gain by 2030s.
They'll keep pushing it 2040s, 2050s, 2060s. Well, we're almost there at 2030s.
6 years.
6 more years. Let's see what happens. And they'll just keep kicking the bucket down the road.
Nature of the soul is there. Always one. The nature of our soul is always wants more. Like material, conditioned material nature.
Well, what is that? That's what the scientists want. They want more.
If they get something, then they feel that at the time it's not sufficient.
Yeah, look, they're what they're looking for is free energy, right? You have free energy, then you become billionaires, trillionaires, quadrillionaires, right? First of all, their concept of what is producing the energy in the sun is wrong. It's not based on fusion energy. Where is it all that energy coming from in the sun? From Krishna, from Vivaswan, Supreme, it's actually spiritual, and the sun energy is actually spiritual and coming from the spiritual world. Right? So it's not a material thing. That's why with using the sun energy, things grow.
Yeah.
And this photosynthesis of plants captures the energy of the sun and turns it into energy to grow. If there's no sun, nothing would grow. So the plants know how to capture the energy of the sun and then turn it into basically what they need is what's it called? Basic sugar.
Glucose.
Yeah. They have to break everything down to glucose. Then they can grow. It's all science, big time science.
Krishna has planned in such a way it's all
Yeah.
self-sustaining its own and
Yeah.
Well taken.
perfect.
And there's the principle of the that whatever you put in, it gets replaced originally. It's what do you call that?
It's law of energy conservation.
Yeah, conservation of
Conservation.
energy and
You cannot destroy the
no,
energy.
you can't destroy it.
Changing
Yeah,
one to another.
yes. So that's a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Conservation of energy. It's the law of nature.
No.
Right? Change one thing into another thing, and it can come back again. So it's always rejuvenated. And so nature has done it. Now, why can't the scientists do it?
But they don't get is once you change the state,
Yeah.
they think that it's like irreversible. But nature will bring it back.
Yeah,
COVID or
definitely nature's bringing it.
tsunami or
Yeah.
heat
Conservation of energy.
Yeah.
The law of nature. One person was really brilliant was it Tesla? Is that his name? Yeah, it was Tesla.
Tesla is the father of the
Yeah, he knew how to manipulate electric energy. And by the way, he was killed. Because he was trying to convince the United States Army to accept his, theoretical, let's say, weapons. And they refused. Then he tried to sell it to the communists. And when that happened, he was murdered.
that's a bummer.
It's dangerous business. The energy business, very dangerous. It's the same thing with gold. When there's a gold mine, you know, uh, people kill each other to be able to exploit the gold mine.
Dr. Maharaj, when
Uh-huh.
there were a shortage of grocery bags, rice bags.
When?
I think 1 year ago or something like that, the rice something there was
Yeah.
shortage.
Yeah.
In the stores, the Indian.
Because they didn't have enough bags.
Yeah, so they're just jumping on the rack and throwing.
In the stores?
Yeah, there was a
Who was doing it? The Indians?
Yeah.
In India?
In US.
Really?
There was a Sonamati rice shortage news, I think 6 months or 9 months ago.
Uh-huh. People get angry.
Yeah.
Rice anger. Rice wars. There's oil wars and rice wars.
Right, so definitely gold wars are bigger. Big scale.
Horrible. Okay, so we'll stop right there. What is our takeaway? Sansalam Manat Krishna. The mind is always agitated. Chanchalam Manat Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Mano Mayi Arpitam Stiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfection. So Chanchalam Himana Krishna, the mind is always, but that was the previous, that was one. So today's,
Number one.
yeah, today's takeaway is now the analytical study of devotional will be explained by the Lord, who says that by such an analytical study, one becomes freed from the modes of material nature. The same assertion is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tato mam tatvato gyatva. By understanding the Lord according to various categories, one can become eligible to enter into the kingdom. This is also explained here. By understanding the science of devotional service in Sankhya philosophy, one can become free from the modes of material nature. The eternal self, after becoming free from the spell of material nature, becomes eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. As long as one has even a slight desire to enjoy or lord it over material nature, there is no chance of his being freed from the influence of nature's material modes. Therefore, one has to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead analytically, as explained in the Sankhya system of philosophy by Lord Kapila Dev. Okay, we're going to go over this again tomorrow. I want to really go deeply into what's being said here.
So Maharaj, I have a question, Harivilas Maharaj.
Yes.
So, I mean, there are two concepts here, like, one is a biological or physical being and there is a spiritual being. So the question I have is like, the Krishna is being both like, spiritual being as well as physical being in, Madhura. Does he exist today, like, in the physical form?
Krishna is eternal.
Yeah, the physical form, does he exist or where can we find him?
You go to the temple, you see the deity.
Yeah, that's a deity, right? Like, but, in
Krishna.
Kurukshetra,
There's no difference between the deity and Krishna. If the deity has been consecrated correctly with this Pran Pratishtha ceremony, and the Pandits invite the Lord to inhabit the form that they have made according to the Shastric evidence, then it becomes a living thing. Yes, go ahead.
I see your point, Maharaj. Like, and also the following question is like, I mean, that definitely like, Prana Pratishta or, the inauguration of the statue where we recite all the spiritual mantras and then, we do the processes to, invoke the Krishna in that. But, at the same time, like Krishna who is created universe and, who controls everything. I'm just wondering, like, why his physical form was limited to Kurukshetra, or, in that time frames, but why not he exists in a human form everywhere today?
How do you know he doesn't exist in a human form everywhere?
I didn't get you, Maharaj. Like,
How
could
do
you?
you know? How do you know he doesn't exist in a human form everywhere?
That is my question. Like, I mean, so there is an experience of like, somebody, so we were projected in certain way. Like if I read Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna's picture, like, my mind always try to seek the picture that I see in Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. Okay.
So for example, in the place that they came from, there are there are a lot of the historical movies, right? Whenever the people, most of the people, right, they look for Krishna in certain movie actor, like the actor who played so many Krishna on screen. So similarly, when I read Bhagavad Gita, like I see the pictures, I try to see the whatever I see and my mind perceives around me.
I didn't get the last couple words you said.
Yeah, so I'm trying to answer your question that how do I know that Krishna is not present around me, right? So
Okay.
I'm trying to answer that question by saying that, so I read Bhagavad Gita and I see some representation or picture of Krishna, and I try to interpret that around my world. So I don't see that.
First of all, you don't have to interpret anything. It's a fact. Krishna is in your heart. That's why your body is working. It's alive with consciousness. As soon as Krishna leaves the body, you lose your consciousness, you're dead. So the fact that Krishna is in your heart and he's the origin of your consciousness, that is the sustaining principle of life. As soon as Krishna leaves your body, your consciousness is nil, zero, and you die.
I see. I see. Yeah.
Just like it's very similar to a battery in a car.
Yeah.
If you take the battery out of the car, it doesn't move. Right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
put the battery back in the car and connect all the wires, it starts moving.
I
Of course,
see.
you have to have gasoline also. But even if you have gasoline but no battery, it's not going to move. So, what is that thing that makes things move in the universe? It's Krishna, the
I
supreme person.
see. Yeah. I think there is a picture in Bhagavad Gita that represents this. Like all human beings, all living beings have the Krishna's energy in them, and all that energy is originating from Krishna.
Yes, yes. So the point is, if people don't have an explanation for the source of energy, then they have to accept our explanation. You see, because they don't have an explanation. Then they have to explain. Then they have to accept our explanation. Like, for example, the scientists believe that the energy of the sun is produced by some kind of fusion energy. That's actually wrong, but that's their theory. And they're trying to prove it by creating fusion reactors by which they can duplicate how the sun is making energy. They haven't succeeded, and they won't succeed because the energy of the sun is not something material. It's actually spiritual. It's coming from Krishna. It's not a material energy. It's a spiritual energy. That's why things grow when there's sunlight, because the energy of the sun is being captured by plants, and then plants grow. If there was no energy of the sun, nothing would grow because the plants can capture that energy and you turn it into glucose, and then things grow. Plants grow. When there's no light, energy from the sun, nothing's going to grow. Nothing will grow in the darkness. Well, some people say, well, mushrooms grow in the darkness. But, okay, so the whole point is without Krishna, nothing is going to happen. Krishna is the source of all energy in the universe. Now, people say, well, that's your, spiritual speculation, but we have other explanations of why there's energy in nature. Okay, fine. But there is what is us, what you're able to see, and there's also things that you don't have the ability to see, but actually they exist. So one of those things that you don't see, but it actually exists, is the presence of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's making everything grow and animating things. So it's energy. So they might have a different explanation. Okay, but we have our explanation. So over time, they usually come to things that they can't explain anymore. Right? When they come to those points where they have we have an explanation. So therefore they have to accept our explanation because they don't have one. Right? So, like for example, why does someone die? Actually, no one really dies. They just change the body, but they don't have an explanation for that, right? So then they have to accept our explanation. That's what Prabhupada said, right?
Yeah.
If they don't have an explanation, but we have an explanation, right? So what is our explanation? That no one actually dies. Because they have
Yeah, definitely I understand, Maharaj. I think that there is a point of like spiritual being will never die, like the energy will never die.
Yes.
There is a physical principle like there is something like called neither you create neither you destroy the energy. So
Conservation of energy.
yeah, conservation of energy. But our body has some biological clock that you know uh, at least in the data, like I never
Yeah,
had
but
like
the
somebody
first thing
living.
we learn, in Krishna consciousness is, I am not this body.
Yeah, I agree, Maharaj. Like, I'm not debating on that. Like, I'm just saying that there is an end to this body, like, maybe 110 years in the historically. But when we, being spiritual, when we realize that we are spiritual being, not this body, not this mind, yes, there is, infinite lifetimes we have.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
That means you have faith. You have
Yeah, yeah.
faith. The
I
explanation of the
definitely believe in,
Shastra.
yeah,
Haribol. Thank you.
yeah.
All glories to Prabhupada ki jai. Without Prabhupada, we would not have any of this knowledge.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.